Guess what? We had a baby. Come celebrate with us. Vanessa's voice dripped with insincerity as it came through the phone, jolting me out of the quiet comfort of my living room. My fingers tightened around the phone. The audacity of this woman never ceased to amaze me. Vanessa, I said slowly, forcing a calmness into my voice that I did not feel. Congratulations. Thanks, Emily. It's going to be this Saturday. You have to come. It wouldn't be the same without you. Her cheerful tone grated against my nerves, but I wasn't about to let her see that. I'll check our calendar, I replied, non-committal. The last thing I wanted was to celebrate anything with Vanessa, but I knew avoiding her completely was impossible. Perfect. See you there. She hung up before I could respond. I let out a deep sigh and dropped the phone onto the couch. Derek, who must have noticed the tension on my face, walked over from the kitchen. What's wrong? He asked, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. It's Vanessa, I said, unable to prevent the bitterness creeping into my voice. She wants us to come to a celebration for their new baby. Derek's expression darkened. She's something else, isn't she? She stole my fiancé without a second thought, and now she wants me to celebrate with her? I said, more to myself than to Derek. The past I had tried so hard to move on from reared its ugly head yet again. We don't have to go if you don't want to, Derek suggested, wrapping his arms around me. I leaned into his embrace, closing my eyes and trying to let the warmth of his touch soothe me. No, I said after a moment. We'll go. I need to show her that I've moved on, that she didn't break me. Derek kissed the top of my head. I'll be right there with you. Saturday arrived quicker than I would have liked. As we drove to Vanessa and Brian's home, memories of my past relationship with Brian flooded my mind. I pushed them aside, focusing on the present. Derek's presence beside me was an anchor. We reached the house, a picture-perfect suburban home. Vanessa had always wanted the most desirable things. Her attention to superficial details never changed. As we walked up to the front door, Vanessa was there to greet us. Emily, Derek, I am so glad you could make it. She hugged me stiffly, an overly sweet smile plastered on her face. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, my own smile not quite reaching my eyes. Brian was inside, holding the baby, a proud smile on his face. Seeing him after all this time brought back a flood of emotions, but I held my head high and walked over to him. Congratulations, Brian. Thanks, Emily. It means a lot that you're here, he said, his smile genuine. I could see a flicker of the man I used to love in his eyes, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of our past. Derek stayed close by, his presence a constant reassurance. Vanessa fluttered around, playing the perfect hostess, but I could sense the tension beneath her polished exterior. Near the end of the party, Vanessa cornered me in the kitchen while I was getting a drink. So how's married life treating you? She asked. Better than I could have ever imagined, I replied honestly, a genuine smile on my face this time. She studied me for a moment before speaking again. You've really moved on, haven't you? Yes, Vanessa, I said, meeting her gaze directly. I have. A shadow crossed her face, but she quickly replaced it with another fake smile. That's good to hear. Derek appeared in the doorway then, holding my coat. You ready to go, Emily? Yes, I am, I said, walking over to him and slipping my arm through his. I looked back at Vanessa one last time. Goodbye, Vanessa. As we walked out of the house, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. I had faced the ghosts of my past, and I was stronger for it. Derek squeezed my hand, a silent promise that we would face whatever came next together. Back home, the drive still lingering in my mind, Derek sat beside me, warm and silent. I knew what I had to do. The past few days had stirred something inside me, a need to confront the memories I'd buried. I was sitting at the dining table when it hit me, Brian's blue eyes, his light laughter, and how it all began. Just a small volunteer event downtown. Emily, he had said, extending a hand as we stood by the food stand. I'm Brian. Nice to finally meet you in person. His smile was genuine, and his eyes lit up when he saw me. We had exchanged emails for months, brainstorming ways to support local shelters. In person, he was even more charming. We clicked instantly, sharing an easy camaraderie. As the months went by, our meetings turned into dates. One cool autumn evening, Brian and I stood on a rickety bridge overlooking a small, serene creek. I have something for you, he said, pulling a small box from his coat pocket. My heart raced. As he opened the box, the glint of the diamond ring caught the moonlight, Emily, will you marry me? His voice was soft, hopeful, as if the world hung on my answer. I had said yes. It had felt right, destined even. Until Vanessa. Vanessa had shown up at our engagement party, uninvited but with that signature smile. "Ems, long time no see," she had said, pulling me into a hug. Despite her cheerful demeanor, an unsettling chill always accompanied Vanessa. Derek wandered into the room, breaking my reverie. "Penny for your thoughts?" he asked, sitting across from me. "Just remembering how it all started," I replied. "I'd like to hear it, if you're willing to share," he said gently. "All right," I said, drawing a deep breath. Vanessa had been the friend everyone warned you about, always looking for ways to undermine, subtly belittle. She had a knack for finding weaknesses and exploiting them. It was no wonder she had wormed her way into Brian's life. One afternoon, I had suggested a double date, introduce Vanessa to Brian, try to mend old fences. But as weeks passed, Brian seemed increasingly distant. "You're working late again?" I'd asked him one night, a hint of frustration in my voice. "Yeah, just a lot going on at the office," he replied, not meeting my eyes. The strain between us grew, but I wanted to believe in him, in us, until one evening, by sheer chance, I stumbled upon them. They were at the local park, hidden away but not invisible. Brian was in Vanessa's embrace, her lips pressed close to his ear. "You're so much more exciting than Emily." His voice was low, but the words seared into me. Vanessa's laughter followed. "I knew you'd realize how boring she is." I felt the ground fall beneath me, I said to Derek now, my voice trembling. Derek reached over, taking my hand in his. "And yet here you are, stronger than ever." I nodded. It wasn't easy, but it made me who I am now. "I believe in you, Emily. We'll face whatever comes next together." His resolve steadied me. With Derek by my side, I felt a new surge of strength. I would see this through, and Vanessa would see just how strong I had become. The next day, as I sorted through my old photos, I found one of Brian and me at a small cafe. It was from the day I introduced him to Vanessa. The three of us, laughing and oblivious to the chaos that lay ahead. I remember that day vividly. It was the first time the two of them met. We were at the Red Maple Cafe, a quaint place downtown known for its coffee and pastries. "Brian, this is Vanessa," I said cheerfully, motioning to her as she walked in. Vanessa flashed her charming smile, and I felt a pang of unease. "Nice to meet you, Vanessa," Brian said, shaking her hand. "Likewise, Brian. Emily talks about you all the time," Vanessa replied smoothly. We settled at a corner table. Brian and Vanessa started chatting about everything: movies, travel, work. Vanessa had a way of making people open up, making them feel like they were the only person in the room. I tried to join in, but it became clear I was more an observer than a participant. Weeks passed, and Brian began to grow distant. He blamed it on work stress. I didn't want to believe anything else. One night, as he left for another supposed late-night meeting, I decided to follow him. Under the dim streetlights, I trailed his car until he stopped at a park. He got out, and there she was, Vanessa, waiting for him. I watched from a distance, hiding in the shadows. They talked, but soon their conversation turned into an embrace, and then a kiss. "You're so much more exciting than Emily," Brian said, running his fingers through her hair. Vanessa laughed softly. "I knew you'd realize how boring she is." My heart shattered. The betrayal was like a knife twisting in my gut. I stumbled back, trying to leave quietly, but stepped on a branch. "What was that?" Brian snapped, looking around. I ducked behind a tree, holding my breath. After a moment, they seemed to shrug it off, and I took the chance to escape. My world crashed down around me that night. I went to our apartment and waited, tears streaming down my face. When Brian came home, I confronted him. "So, late night at work, huh?" I said bitterly. He looked startled. "Emily, it's not what you think." "Save it, Brian," I cut him off, my voice shaking. "I saw you with her. How long has this been going on?" He ran a hand through his hair, eyes avoiding mine. I'm sorry, Emily. I didn't mean for this to happen." "How could you do this to me? To us?" Anger mixed with heartbreak in my voice. "It just happened," he said weakly. "I felt something with Vanessa that I didn't feel with me." I interrupted. "Spare me, Brian. You're pathetic." He looked like he wanted to say more, but I couldn't take it. I grabbed my purse and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. I called Vanessa the next day. "We need to talk," I said coldly. "Sure, Emily. Should I bring coffee?" Her tone was mocking. I met her at the cafe. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Why, Vanessa? She shrugged, a smirk playing on her lips. Because I could, Emily, and because you trust too easily. You're vile, I said, my voice low. Maybe, but I'm good at it, she replied with satisfaction. That was the last day I spoke to either of them. Until now. As I placed the photo back into the box, Derek came into the room. You all right? He asked, concern in his eyes. Yeah, I said, taking his hand. I'm ready to face what's next. Remember, I'm with you every step of the way, he reassured me. With his support, I knew I could confront the darkest parts of my past and come out stronger on the other side. I woke up the next morning feeling drained yet resolute. The confrontation last night had dredged up old wounds, but it also gave me a newfound determination. It was time to rebuild. The first step was to get out of the house. I threw on a comfortable pair of jeans and a sweater, and Derek suggested we go for a walk to clear our minds. We strolled down the bustling streets, eventually finding ourselves at a small, cozy cafe. I could use a coffee, Derek said, smiling at me. Sounds good, I replied. As we sat at a corner table, I glanced around and noticed a familiar face. Derek must have seen my expression change. What's up? He asked. It's Brian, I said quietly, motioning with my eyes. He was sitting alone, staring into a cup of coffee. The sight of him brought back a flood of emotions, but I kept my composure. Do you want to leave? Derek asked, ready to whisk me away at a moment's notice. No, I said firmly. I need to face this. I walked over to Brian, each step deliberate and steady. He looked up, eyes widening in surprise. Emily. Brian, I said, taking a seat across from him. I'm sorry, he stammered, but I held up a hand to stop him. I'm not here for apologies, I said simply. I just want to understand why. Brian looked down, fiddling with the handle of his cup. I don't have a good excuse, Emily. I was selfish. Vanessa was different, new. I know it's no justification. No, it's not, I replied bluntly. You knew what we had meant to me, and yet you chose to throw it all away. He nodded, a look of regret etched on his face. I know, and I've regretted it every day since. Does Vanessa know you feel this way? I asked, curious about the dynamics of their relationship now. He hesitated, then sighed. Vanessa doesn't care about how I feel. She never has. It's always been about her. I studied him for a moment. The man sitting before me was a shadow of the person I once loved. And yet you stayed with her. Leaving her now would ruin everything, he said quietly. My career, my reputation. She knows too much. I could see the fear in his eyes. Vanessa had a grip on him, tighter than I'd imagined. Brian, I said softly, you deserve better than to live in fear. He shook his head, clearly defeated. I don't know if I can ever get out. I stood up, determined to face my future without looking back. That's your choice to make, Brian, but I won't be a part of it. I walked back to Derek, who had watched the whole exchange from a distance. How did it go? He asked, eyes filled with concern. I think it's time to stop dwelling on the past, I said with a newfound clarity. Derek nodded. Sounds like a good plan. Days passed, and I focused on my work and building a life with Derek. It was during a business seminar that my new chapter truly began. I met Derek again, though this time as partners running our own startup. He was speaking about innovation when our eyes met across the room. Building something new requires vision and partnership, he concluded, stepping down from the podium. I approached him, confidence restored. Great speech, Derek, I said, a genuine smile lighting up my face. Thanks, Emily. We make a good team, don't we? He replied, returning my smile. We do. Here's to new beginnings, I said, holding up my coffee cup. To new beginnings, he echoed, clinking his cup against mine. As we walked out together, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, Derek and I would face them hand in hand. The past had shaped me, but it wouldn't define me. I was ready for whatever came next. The call from Vanessa lingered in my mind, but I knew attending their gathering was the first step in facing my demons. Derek was supportive. Together, we'll show her you can't be broken, he said one evening as we planned our approach. I won't let her get the best of me, I replied, my resolve hardening. The night before the visit, we sat on the living room couch, going through our plan. Derek, she'll try to provoke us. We need to keep calm, no matter what. I'll be right there with you, he reassured, holding my gaze. The day arrived. As we parked outside Vanessa and Brian's lavish suburban home, my heart raced. Derek squeezed my hand. You ready? Yes, I replied, taking a deep breath before we walked to the door. Vanessa greeted us with that overly sweet smile. "Emily, Derek, come in," she chirped, but her eyes were calculating. I could see the gears turning in her head. Brian approached, a drink in hand. "It's been a long time, Emily." "Yes, it has," I replied coolly, meeting his gaze briefly before looking away. The room was filled with guests, laughter, and chatter. Vanessa played the perfect hostess, but there was an edge to her actions. She fluttered between guests, but her eyes kept darting to me. Derek and I mingled, making polite conversation. As the evening wore on, Vanessa approached me, a faux friendly smile plastered on her face. "Emily, can we privately?" "Sure," I said, maintaining a calm exterior as I followed her to a quieter corner. "You've moved on, I see," Vanessa said, her tone laced with insincerity. "I have," I replied steadily. "Good for you," her eyes narrowed. "But let's be real, you came here to prove something, didn't you?" I met her gaze head on. "I came to show you that I'm stronger than you think." "We'll see about that," she said, a sinister smile crossing her lips. She reached into a nearby drawer and pulled out a small recorder. "I have something for you," she said, pressing play. Brian's voice crackled through the speaker. "Vanessa, you're right. Emily was too trusting, too naive." My stomach churned, but I kept my face impassive. "Nice trick, Vanessa," I commented dryly. She leaned closer. "I always knew you were too soft for this world, but look where I am now." Before I could respond, Derek walked up. "Everything all right here?" he asked, his eyes locking on Vanessa's. "Perfect timing," I said, smiling at him. Vanessa's eyes widened. "He really is your husband?" Derek extended his hand. "Derek, CEO of Greenleaf Inc. Nice to meet you," he said smoothly. Vanessa stumbled back, shock and realization crossing her face. "Is this for real?" "Yes, Vanessa," I said, satisfaction dripping from my words. "Very real." At that moment, Brian walked over, sensing the tension. "What's going on here?" Vanessa tried to regain her composure, but it was too late. Derek turned to Brian. "We were just discussing how integrity is key in both personal and business relationships." Brian's eyes flicked between us, uncertainty clouding his face. "Vanessa?" he questioned, looking at her warily. She opened her mouth to retort, but the damage was done. The cracks in her facade were visible. Derek placed a protective arm around me. "Let's get going, Emily." "Yes, let's," I agreed. We walked out, leaving Vanessa and Brian to deal with the aftermath of their duplicity. In the car, Derek leaned over and kissed my forehead. "You did great, Emily." "Thanks," I said, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. "I think I finally got my closure." With each mile back home, the past drifted further behind us. What lay ahead was a future built on honesty, love, and mutual respect. A future Vanessa could only dream of. The following weekend, it was time to put our plan into action. Derek and I arrived separately. Derek would come a bit later, just as we had rehearsed. I walked up to Vanessa's door, confidence radiating from my every step. She answered with that same disingenuous smile. "Emily, alone again?" she smirked. "I wouldn't be so sure," I replied coolly, stepping inside. The house was filled with the usual gathering of their friends. Vanessa led me to the living room, where Brian was talking with some guests. He looked up, surprise crossing his face. "Emily, good to see you again," he said, though his voice lacked enthusiasm. "Brian," I nodded. Vanessa's eyes darted between us, calculating. "So," she began, addressing the room, "we have a guest tonight. Emily, why don't you say a few words?" The room quieted, all eyes on me. I felt a surge of determination. "Thank you, Vanessa. It's nice to be here among friends," I started, my voice steady. "It's funny how life changes, how people and relationships evolve." Brian shifted uncomfortably. Vanessa's smile was tighter. "Oh, we all know about evolving relationships, don't we?" she said sweetly. I continued, unapologetic. "I met Derek a few years ago at a business seminar. He's been my rock ever since. And though we started from scratch, we've come a long way." Vanessa's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. The doorbell rang, a perfectly timed interruption. Derek walked in, immediately drawing the room's attention. "Apologies, traffic was horrendous," he said, making his way to my side. "Derek, CEO of Greenleaf Inc. Nice to finally meet everyone," he added, shaking hands with a few guests. Vanessa's eyes widened in recognition, but she quickly composed herself. "Looks like you weren't lying, Emily," she chuckled, although her eyes betrayed her. The evening continued, and it wasn't long before Vanessa beckoned me to follow her into the study. I glanced at Derek, who nodded slightly. It was time. Emily, let's have a private chat, she suggested, a hint of malice in her tone. I followed her, entering the cluttered room filled with awards and framed photos. Vanessa shut the door behind us. So enjoy playing house with your rich husband? She sneered. You seem awfully interested in my life, Vanessa, I replied calmly. Maybe a bit too interested. She walked to a drawer, pulling out the same recorder. Remember this? She asked, pressing play, but there was nothing. Her face paled. What did you do? The real question is, what have you done, Vanessa? I said. Just then, Derek walked in. Sorry to intrude, but I couldn't help overhearing, he said, stepping beside me. Vanessa, how many secrets do you have stuffed away in that drawer? Her face contorted with rage. You think you can waltz in and disrupt my life? Derek remained calm. Your life was built on lies. Time for them to come crashing down. He pulled out his phone, playing a recording where Vanessa was heard whispering multiple indiscretions to different men. It was all laid bare. Vanessa's facade crumbled. You're destroying me, she hissed. No, Vanessa, you did that to yourself, I replied, the weight of past betrayals lifting. Brian burst into the room, hearing the tail end of our confrontation. What is going on? He demanded. Derek turned to him. Your wife's been deceiving you far more than you know, Brian. Brian looked at Vanessa, realization and hurt crossing his face. Is it true? He asked, voice breaking. Vanessa whimpered, tears streaming down her face. Brian, I can explain. Don't. I've heard enough, he interrupted, storming out. Derek took my hand, guiding me out of the study. The guests stood in awkward silence as we made our exit. Outside, Derek turned to me, his eyes full of pride. You did it, Emily. You faced her. I smiled, a sense of liberation washing over me. We did it together. As we drove away, I couldn't help but feel a tremendous sense of closure. Vanessa's true nature had been exposed, and I was free, ready to embrace the future with Derek, leaving the past well and truly behind. As we left Vanessa's house, the satisfaction of exposing her deceit filled me with a sense of relief. Derek drove us home in silence, his hand firmly holding mine. The weight of the past few months was slowly lifting. The next morning, I received a call from an unknown number. Emily, it's Brian, the voice on the other end said, sounding defeated. What do you want, Brian? I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. I needed to talk. Can we meet? He asked, desperation evident in his voice. All right, the Red Maple Cafe in an hour, I replied before hanging up. When I arrived, Brian was already seated, looking disheveled and worn out. I sat down across from him. So what's this about? I asked. Vanessa and I had a massive fight last night after you left. She's been lying to me about so many things, affairs, money, everything, he said, rubbing his temples. She's never been honest, Brian. You chose to ignore the signs, I stated simply. I know, he admitted, tears welling up in his eyes. I don't know what to do, Emily. My life is falling apart. I looked at him, feeling a mix of pity and frustration. Brian, the truth is, you let this happen. Vanessa manipulated you because you allowed her. Now you have to decide if you want to change things. He nodded, taking in my words. I've been such a fool. Yes, I agreed, but it's not too late to start over. You need to find your own path, away from Vanessa. Brian took a deep breath. You're right. I'm filing for divorce. I need to rediscover who I am without her. Good luck, Brian, I said sincerely, standing up to leave. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt a sense of closure with Brian. It was time to focus on myself and my future with Derek. Later that evening, Derek and I were sitting in our living rooms working on some documents for our company. The atmosphere was peaceful, a sharp contrast to the chaos we'd recently faced. Emily, I got an email from our biggest investor. They want to meet us to discuss expanding our project, Derek said, excitement in his voice. That's amazing news, I replied, sharing his enthusiasm. We've come so far together, Derek said, taking my hand. I couldn't have done it without you. And I couldn't have faced my past without you, I replied, squeezing his hand. The following week, Vanessa's dirty laundry was aired publicly. Social media and local news buzzed with details of her multiple affairs and financial misdeeds. Her world was crumbling. Brian called again, this time to thank me. Emily, I've started the divorce process, he said. I owe it to myself to be better. I'm glad to hear that, Brian. Take care of yourself, I replied, genuinely wishing him well. Vanessa, on the other hand, tried to salvage her ruined reputation. She called me, but I ignored it. Derek and I had more important things to focus on, our future. One evening, as Derek and I walked through a park hand in hand, he stopped and looked at me. "Emily, this is just the beginning for us. I can't wait to see what we'll achieve together." I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Together, we're unstoppable. As we embraced, the weight of the past finally lifted from my shoulders. The journey had been long and painful, but it had forged something unbreakable between Derek and me. Returning home, we celebrated the victory of stepping into a new chapter of our lives. Our company was gaining momentum, and our relationship was stronger than ever. Derek raised a toast. "To new beginnings," he said, his eyes full of promise. "To love and resilience," I added, clinking my glass against his. With Derek by my side, I knew we could face whatever challenges lay ahead, leaving the shadows of our past far behind. A few weeks later, the fallout from Vanessa's exposure was still echoing through our small town. Derek and I focused on our work, growing stronger with each passing day. One afternoon, I received a call from a number I recognized too well. "Emily, it's Vanessa." Her voice was weak, a stark contrast to her usual bravado. "What do you want, Vanessa?" I asked, keeping my tone cold. "Meet me. Please, I need to talk," she begged. "Why should I?" I countered. "Just please." "I'm at the park near the old library," she said before hanging up. I found her sitting on a bench, looking more gaunt and haunted than ever. She saw me and started to speak. "Emily, everything's falling apart. Brian's left. Our finances are a mess. I need help," she pleaded, tears pooling in her eyes. "Help?" I scoffed. "You destroyed my life and expect me to help you?" "I know I've done terrible things, but I'm desperate," she admitted, her voice breaking. "You poisoned everything you touched, Vanessa. This is your mess to clean up," I answered firmly. "I'm begging you, Emily. I have no one else," she said, sobbing now. I looked at her, feeling a pang of pity, but reminded myself of the pain she caused. "Find a way out yourself, Vanessa. Like you said, I was too naive before. Not anymore." I turned and walked away, leaving her to face the consequences of her actions. I called Derek, my anchor in this storm. "How did it go?" he asked. "She's hit rock bottom," I said, relief mixed with a touch of sadness in my voice. "You did the right thing," he reassured. Days turned into weeks, and Derek and I continued to push our business forward. One evening, I received a call from our biggest investor. "Emily, I'm pleased to inform you that your proposal has been accepted. We are funding your project," the voice on the other end announced. "That's fantastic news," I exclaimed, excitement bubbling inside me. Derek overheard and rushed over. "What is it?" "We got the funding," I said, throwing my arms around him. "We did it." Derek smiled, a look of pride on his face. I knew we would. Later, we celebrated with close friends and family at our home. Among the guests was Margaret, Derek's mother, who had been a pillar of support. "I'm so proud of you both," she said, embracing us. "Thank you, Margaret." "We wouldn't have done it without your encouragement," I replied, genuinely grateful. As the party wound down and guests began to leave, Derek and I found a quiet moment together. "This is just the beginning," Derek said, holding my hand. "Yes, it is," I agreed, my heart full of hope for the future. The next few months were a whirlwind of meetings, traveling, and growing our business. Our hard work paid off, and soon we celebrated a major milestone with our team. "To success," Derek toasted. "And to the incredible journey ahead," I added, clinking my glass with his. In the midst of all this, news of Vanessa continued to circulate. She lost her job, her house, and eventually left town in disgrace. The last I heard, she moved back in with her parents, a far cry from the life she once flaunted. One summer afternoon, Derek and I sat in our backyard, reflecting on everything that had transpired. "You know," I said thoughtfully, "I never imagined we'd get here from where we started." Derek nodded. "But we did, Emily. We turned the worst chapters into our greatest strength." I leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his embrace. "Thank you, Derek, for everything." "We're a team," he replied softly, "and together we can face anything." As we watched the sunset, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had been tumultuous, but it had led to a place of true happiness and fulfillment. Derek and I were ready for all the new adventures life had in store for us, with the past firmly behind us. Together, we had redefined our path, turning pain into purpose and building a future grounded in mutual respect and love. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all.
My husband is a carefree and playful person who never contributes any money to the household. Furthermore, he prioritizes obligations over me and our daughter, and when my sister-in-law got married, I hoped that this would help my husband settle down. However, that was a big mistake. Additionally, when my sister-in-law and her husband visit, money sometimes disappears from my wallet. I don't want to doubt my sister-in-law, but since there's no other possibility, I talked to my husband about it.
I give it to my sister.
Those words came back to me.
Her marriage seems tough, so I have to support her as her older brother.
Upon hearing such a ridiculous remark from my husband, I finally lost my temper. My name is Carrie Harrington, and I'm 35 years old. I work as a nurse, taking care of many patients. My family consists of my husband, Alan, who is the same age, and our 7-year-old daughter, Malia. We live in an apartment. We may be an ordinary family, but I had a certain worry. I've been married to Alan for 8 years. The truth is, he has an incredibly carefree and playful personality. He treats me like I'm from Mars, and especially doesn't help with household chores or childcare. Most of his salary is spent on his own entertainment, and the money he brings home is only $1,000. And that all disappears in rent. I covered living expenses and Malia's school fees with my work. He's a hopeless husband, but I couldn't bring myself to divorce him because I hated the idea of dividing our assets. My husband has other troublesome traits. He has a serious sister complex about his younger sister Katie, who's 10 years younger than him. Katie is 25 years old and works as a model. She is beautiful and stylish enough to be in a magazine. It seems that from a young age, she was raised lovingly like a cute doll, cherished like a butterfly or a flower.
Whenever I'm with Katie, everyone turns around because of how adorable she is. There's no sister as beautiful as her.
I've been told that to the point where it's become a habit.
Our parents died in an accident when Katie was an adult. I'm the only one she can count on anymore. So, I'm determined to help Katie no matter what.
Alan said such things before we got married. At that time, I didn't know about his extreme sister complex, so I thought it was nice that he cared for his sister. But I never expected it to be such a severe sister complex. The extravagance in my husband's spending is not only due to his own indulgence, but also because of Katie. If Katie asks for pocket money, he immediately gives her $500 or even $1,000. If Alan receives a message from Katie, he'll head straight to her even if there's a battle with me or our daughter. For example, Katie relies on Alan for things like this. I bought a lasso. I can't carry all these bags. Alan, can you carry them for me? It started raining when I arrived at the station. It's truly the worst. At this rate, I'll get wet, but I don't want to buy an umbrella at the convenience store. Alan, can you pick me up by car? Hey, listen, there are cockroaches in the house. I'm scared and can't go in. Alan, please come and get rid of the cockroaches. Katie frequently calls Alan for even trivial matters like this. He reacts every time as if Katie is in trouble and rushes out. It feels excessive protection for an adult woman. Is it really necessary to prioritize matters like that and disregard his own family to such an extent? Katie is well aware of her brother's affection for her. She might even have a sense of superiority over her own daughter and me. She once said something like this to me. I'm sorry, Carrie. Alan always prioritizes me. The other day he abandoned your date and came to me. I don't want to be loved too much. While the content is an apology, Katie doesn't seem apologetic at all. Rather, she speaks as if she's mocking me. Alan's sister complex is already extreme, and Katie has quite a brother complex as well. Perhaps that's why she calls Alan over to provoke me. the one who married her brother. When I was pregnant with Malia, I thought that if he had a child of his own, maybe Alan's sister complex would subside a bit. I was a fool to expect that. In fact, Alan is not afraid to say,
Katie was prettier when she was a child.
I remember being utterly disgusted when he asked,
Is it normal to compare the beauty of one's own sister to a child's?
There are other things that are unforgivable. One day I saw Alan looking at a branded bag. Alan doesn't care much about clothing, and it was a woman's bag, so it obviously wasn't for him. Since my birthday was approaching, I secretly hoped maybe he's going to give it to me as a present. However, Alan didn't give me anything even on my birthday. Curious, I decided to directly inquire about it. Hey, I saw you looking intently at that branded bag the other day. It seems you bought it, but who did you give it to?
Oh, I gave that to Katie as a present. She had been wanting it for a while, you know? I can't refuse my cute sister if she asks for something.
I was disappointed, even though I had expected it. As a last attempt, I asked about my birthday. Today is my birthday too, you know.
Huh? Is it? Sorry, I forgot. But you don't suit a high-end bag. I'll buy you a box of sweets later, so forgive me with that.
Alice said this with a big laugh. He gave a branded bag to his sister and a box of sweets to me on my birthday. I want to praise myself for not hitting Alan at that moment. I was fed up, and divorce crossed my mind, but somehow I managed to hold back. Finally, Katie, who stirred things up in our relationship, also got married. She is with a man who works for a well-known company. Apparently, they met through a mutual acquaintance. A year after their marriage, they had a beautiful baby. Katie and her husband seemed very happy. I thought this would finally put an end to my husband's over-involvement in Katie's life. However, things didn't go smoothly as expected. Surprisingly, Alan started inviting his sister's family to our house frequently.
Hey, today I invited Katie and them over. Prepare a feast and get ready to entertain them.
What? Wait a minute. Again? They were just here 2 days ago, and on top of that, so suddenly.
It's not a big deal, right? Katie just had a baby, and she's going through a lot. I have to help her.
Despite saying that, Alan only orders me around when his sister's family comes over and doesn't lift a finger to help. Katie, who came to the house, doesn't cook or clean, leaving everything to me. Terry tries to help, but Katie and Alan stop him from doing so. In the end, I'm the one who's busy and overwhelmed. The only one who helps is my 7-year-old daughter, Malia. Alan, who is irresponsible enough to invite my sister-in-law and her family over to our house when they don't do anything, and Katie, who sits there brazenly and doesn't even try to help me when she is invited over. I felt a strong irritation toward them. There are other concerns as well. Every time my sister-in-law's family comes to our house, the contents of my wallet decrease. And it's not just loose change. It's at a level where I'm missing $19 and $100 bills. Is Katie secretly stealing? I thought she was selfish, but stealing is another level. After much consideration, I decided to consult Alan about the wallet issue. Depending on the situation, I might have to ban Katie from coming here. Although Alan, the one with the sister complex, might avoid me, but I can't just let the theft go unchecked. Then Alan casually said this.
Oh, I gave the money from the wallet to Katie.
What? For a moment I was dumbfounded, not understanding the meaning of his words. I thought there might be some misunderstanding. Ignoring my confusion, Alan continued to speak with a grin.
She just got married, and now she's saying she can't afford to buy clothes for herself because of the financial responsibilities for her family. She wants to be a full-time housewife, for the sake of the kids. She doesn't want to work. As her brother, it's my duty to fulfill her requests, right?
Alan's argument made my head spin. It was way too much of a sister complex. Moreover, her husband Terry works for a famous company, so they shouldn't be in financial trouble. Most likely, Katie's words about being short on money are a lie. She's probably just begging Alan for spending money. But that's not the real issue. Even if Alan wants to support Katie, why is that money being taken from my wallet? If that's the case, you should give it from your own allowance, shouldn't you? Why take it from my wallet? In response to those words, Alan casually replied,
Huh? No way.
with a joking tone.
Well, if I give her my money, I won't have any for entertainment. I don't want that.
Huh?
Don't get so angry. My wife's money is like my money. I'm glad to be able to help my precious Katie with money. Keep working hard for Katie and me in the future.
Alan said such nonsense with a laugh. At this point, my patience ran out. I absolutely won't forgive him. I can't be with this guy anymore. I told him, all right, that's enough, and cut off the conversation with Alan. My husband looked at me with a puzzled expression, but he didn't mention anything. Surely, in his mind, taking money from my wallet was already a closed matter. However, from my perspective, it was far from over. I contacted my workplace, took a day off, packed my bags, and went back to my parents' house with Malia. My parents were surprised by my sudden return, but when they heard the situation, they supported me. I decided to take advantage of their invitation to stay and take it easy. Afterward, Alan contacted me through calls and messages asking,
Where are you? And are you still angry?
But I ignored him completely. Whether I decide to divorce or not, there are preparations to be made. As things stand, Alan probably won't agree to a divorce, and even if he does, there will be asset distribution. I won't accept that without a fight. For now, I decided to report the incident with a wallet to Terry, Katie's husband. When I called, Terry was surprised, but apologized sincerely. It seems Terry had been questioning the frequent visits to our house, but Katie had explained, We have permission from my brother and sister-in-law.
Don't worry, I'll make sure Katie and my brother-in-law pay for this.
Terry said this and provided me with surprising information. A few days later, Alan kept calling persistently, which was unusual. Normally, he would give up after a few ignored calls. Irritated, I decided to answer the phone. Alan's panicked voice exclaimed,
You finally picked up. Why didn't you answer the phone sooner? We're in a lot of trouble over here. And yet, where are you and what are you doing?
Noisy, aren't you? I can hear you just fine without all the fuss. I'm at my parents' house now.
At your parents' house? What are you relaxing about when Katie is having a terrible time? Come back soon.
No thanks. Calling it a rough time when Katie brought it upon herself is quite the understatement. I heard it from Terry. You were cooperating with her in her affair. Upon hearing this, Alan stumbled over his words. In reality, Katie had cheated with her ex-boyfriend. Despite Terry having a higher income, she had married him for financial reasons, but the affair had continued. The child she gave birth to was not Terry's, but her ex-boyfriend's. Terry, feeling uneasy about the lack of resemblance between the child and himself, had investigated Katie's activities and discovered the truth. Alan was also involved in another affair. Alan knew that Katie was having an affair and that the child was not Terry's, but he kept quiet. Moreover, he actively participated in creating an alibi for Katie's affair. Alan and Katie were then sued by Terry. The evidence is solid and the fee must be paid. After being evicted from the house, Katie came to Alan with her child.
To support Katie and her child, my salary alone isn't enough. I'll have to pay compensation in the future. It's going to be tough, so come back soon.
After all this, it seems Alan still intended to rely on my income. His shameless request left me utterly disgusted. Don't talk nonsense. There's no way I'm coming back. Besides, I'm getting a divorce from you. Upon hearing this, Alan was shocked.
Wait a minute. Why are you suddenly talking about divorce?
I've been dissatisfied for a while. You gave my money to Katie without asking and invited her to our home abruptly. And on top of that, you cooperated in creating an alibi for an affair. It's disgusting. We can't continue as a married couple.
You can't divorce for reasons like that. What's wrong with helping a sister in need? I'll never agree to a divorce.
Alan resisted, showing no sign of understanding the gravity of the situation. Unable to bear it, I decided to play my trump card. I have valid reasons for getting a divorce. You were cheating, right? And with Katie's help, no less. Siblings being siblings, right? You two really look so much alike that I can't help it. At those words, Alan muttered something and looked visibly troubled. This information, too, was discovered by Terry. In reality, Alan had affairs with numerous women, and most of these relationships were facilitated by introductions from Katie. To make matters worse, Katie had actively cooperated in covering up Alan's infidelity. The fact that siblings were collaborating to conceal each other's affairs was a bewildering story. From my perspective, it's bordering on madness. It seemed Alan hadn't considered the possibility of his infidelity being exposed, and he froze completely. Ignoring his state, I continued speaking. I'll be claiming damages for the infidelity in Malia's education expenses. Let's discuss it through our lawyers. Upon hearing this, Alan immediately started to panic.
I'm sorry. I got carried away because you were kind. The only one I love is you. If you want, I'll cut ties with Katie, and I promise I'll never cheat again. So please spare me from the divorce.
I felt utter contempt for Alan. Despite being complicit in Katie's affairs, he was ready to abandon her without hesitation when he found himself in disadvantageous position. Naturally, I had no intention of forgiving Alan, so I said this to him. There's no way I'll forgive you. You consistently neglected Malia and me in favor of Katie. It's despicable how easily you abandoned her when push came to shove. Stealing from my wallet and cheating, it's all you're doing.
Well, that's true, but...
Spare me the excuses. To top it off, assisting with your sister's affair and engaging in infidelity yourself? It's insane. A despicable man like you is bad for Malia's upbringing. Never come near us again. With those words, I hung up and blocked Alan's number. A few weeks later, our marriages were dissolved. Both Terry and I pursued compensation for damages from Alan and Katie. I also sought custody of Malia and requested child support from Alan. Alan paid alimony and child support in installments, and Katie paid alimony in lump sum by borrowing money. Alan and Katie now live together, but due to financial difficulties, they had to enroll Katie's child in daycare. She has started working part-time, apparently. It seemed that Alan and Katie were channeling their salaries into repaying damages and supporting the child. Without relying on my income as before, they seemed to be facing considerable challenges. On the other hand, I found solace in my parents' home, enjoying peaceful days. With my parents taking care of household chores and helping with childcare, I felt reassured. Malia, too, received abundant love and care, appearing genuinely happy. Moving forward, I am determined to work hard for Malia's happiness.
Do you have any proof or evidence that I am actually having an affair with another person and that this baby is not ours? My husband, Theo, looked as if he had won the fight when I asked him that question.
Yeah, of course I do. In fact, I did a DNA analysis already without telling you.
And saying that, my husband took out some documents from his bag. Apparently, the documents were the results of the DNA analysis.
Here, read this part here.
My name is Margaret, and I am 32 years old office worker. I have been married to my husband, Theo, for 3 years now. I first met my husband from the university's tennis club. I was in a relationship with my husband, who was a few years older than me, but when he graduated and got a job and was transferred to another area, we gradually fell apart and ended up breaking up once. Several years later, after I graduated and began working at the office where I work now, I reunited with my husband once again when the tennis club had a reunion for the first time in a long time. Since we had both grown up and our ways of thinking had changed, once we met again, it was a fresh feeling, and we hit it off and began going out again. Then, my husband proposed to me, and we got married. Since then, although both of us worked and had busy working schedules, we have been making it work. Of course, we had our occasional fights, but since we had known each other for so long and we knew each other so well that it was easy for the both of us to apologize to each other after the fights. Then, I finally became pregnant. We were having difficulties to have a child, and we were getting impatient. But in the end, I am really glad that we were able to have a child. My husband loved kids, so he was very happy when he found out that I was pregnant. I thought I was lucky to have a baby with someone who was also so happy to have a baby as well. But after I became pregnant, things started to go a little differently between us. My husband was busy with work even while I was pregnant, and he came home quite late frequently. At first, I thought that it wasn't his fault and we had no choice because it was his job. It's not like my husband did want to work overtime either. So, he would definitely be annoyed if I complained about it. But, as my stomach grew little by little, I got a little worried about Theo. And my anxiety also grew, which is why I couldn't really hold back and talked to Theo about it once. Hey, can't you come home a little earlier?
What?
I know that work is important to you, but I get a little lonely when I am always alone. Hearing these words, my husband looked a little annoyed.
Yeah, but even if you say that, you know that I'm working, right? And it's not like the baby is going to be born anytime soon, right?
Well, that's true, but it was true what Theo had said, and I am still working too. But soon, I will be on maternity leave. And when that happens, I will be all alone in the house all the time. When I think that if my husband continues to come home very late at night and continues what he's doing right now, it will make me feel anxious. So that's why I at least wanted to discuss about it to him. When I kept being quiet with an anxious look on my face, my husband noticed it, and he made an annoyed face again.
All right, I'll ask my mom to come over during the day. Will that be okay for you?
The way he said it was a little cold, but I appreciated the fact that my husband would ask my mother-in-law, Laura, to keep me company. My parents live in a different rural area and they are pretty far away from us, so it was tough for me and my parents to visit each other. Instead, Laura lives very close by with only a 10-minute walk from our house. So, Laura would come visit us frequently in order to support me. She helped me a lot when I was having a hard time with morning sickness, and I really appreciated it. But my husband, perhaps getting reassured by the fact that his mother frequently visited and took care of me, began working overtime and went to dinners with his colleagues to go out drinking more frequently. Recently, even working during Theo's days off has become a normal thing for him. Laura would come often, but it's not like she can visit every day. I was a little angry at Theo, wondering what he was thinking by prioritizing his work instead of being with me. I understand that he is trying his best to work really hard and earn enough for our baby, but I still wish he would consider his priorities a little more. And yesterday was actually my due date, but my husband probably forgot about that and just stayed the same. I got a little mad and deliberately said this in a way that he could hear me. Oh, I wonder if our baby will be born yet. My due date was yesterday. Then, my husband, perhaps because he was too busy getting ready for work in the morning, ended the conversation and went to work by saying,
Well, you're not in labor yet, so not yet, I guess.
Why couldn't he understand that I was being nervous and anxious? I simply wanted him to just understand how I felt. And besides, I have always told my husband about how I felt when I was having a hard time. So it's not like I have always been holding back or ignoring my own feelings. I have been telling him about my anxieties all this time. But Theo seemed to think that there was nothing wrong with it, or that there were many pregnant women in the world and that I should just gather information on the internet or something and stop being nervous or anxious about it. Probably, my husband did not really understand that we, pregnant women, risk our own lives to have babies. I mean, I still remember how Theo was so excited when he found out that I was pregnant. Why did he gradually become colder and colder towards me? That part was confusing me a lot. After seeing my husband off to work, and as I gave out a huge sigh, I suddenly started to feel pains in my stomach and had contractions. I called the hospital and was told that the timing between each contractions were still long and that I would have to wait and see. I prepared my luggage for the hospital and laid down on the couch. In the meantime, I called Laura and Theo just in case. Laura came right away, but my husband just said, "All right," and that was it. I was so angry at him, but I decided not to worry about it and concentrate on myself. And gradually, the timings between each contractions became shorter and shorter, so Laura drove me to the hospital. And then I got hospitalized. Laura understood my anxiety and how nervous I was, so she stayed with me as much as possible. The pain hurted so much that I thought I was going to faint anytime soon, but I was able to endure it because Laura kept on calling out to me. Laura was there for me throughout the day and took care of me, so by the afternoon, she looked a little bit exhausted. So I asked Laura to go home for the night. "Are you sure?" "Yes, I am. Actually, I am really grateful to you for staying with me all day today." Looking at the time, Theo probably would have finished work and he would be here soon. "Is that so? Okay then, I guess I'll head home for today. Good luck, Margaret. Thank you very much for all your help." But no matter how long I waited, my husband never showed up at the hospital room. What on earth is he doing? I sent a text message, but he didn't even read my message. The nurse even asked awkwardly, "Is your husband on a business trip or..." How is it possible that at such an important time like this that I couldn't even get in touch with him? Then, the next morning, I received a reply from Theo.
How's it going? Is our baby born?
Huh? What the hell is he talking about? First of all, he should have come to see me in the hospital yesterday. Even though I managed to suppress my feelings, I couldn't really hide how irritated I was. I replied back angrily saying, "Not yet. Hurry up and come to the hospital first," and turned off my phone. Just seeing my husband's response was already making me angry. Then, the pain got so bad right away that I totally forgot how Theo had irritated me. Apparently, my husband arrived an hour after I replied back to him and walked into the delivery room while I was frantically trying to give birth to our baby. I think I caught a glimpse of my husband, but he no longer mattered too much to me and I just focused on pushing out our baby. My husband just stood there in the room and just watched me pushing for our baby. Halfway through the delivery, the nurse asked my husband to say something to me to help ease the pain, but he just mumbled, and to me, that was just distracting me from pushing. I was trying to focus, but he wasn't helping at all. My husband just being there annoyed the hell out of me. Besides, I saw my husband yawn through the whole thing while I was sweating and trying my best to push. I really couldn't believe him. I knew I was out of my patience, so I gasped for breath, pointed to the entrance, and said, "Get out!" to my husband. I was so focused on the delivery that I said it in a weak voice, but my husband heard me, and he widened his eyes and left the delivery room. Everything about this really sucks. Why did I marry such a man like him anyways? After that, with my husband gone, I was able to concentrate, and I was able to safely give birth to our baby finally. Our baby was a healthy boy. I finally finished giving birth and almost blacked out, but I was relieved to see my son crying with energy. He is my beautiful son. He was born at last. My sweet, sweet son. The nurse called my husband, who was outside the delivery room, in and handed our son to him. My husband looked scared, but he held him in his arms. I'll just put his earlier attitude aside for the moment and appreciate the fact that my husband had finally become a father. As I watched my husband hold our sweet son in his arms, he says something in which I couldn't believe my ears.
Huh, he doesn't look like me at all. Whose son is this?
With that, my husband gave our son back to the nurse and left. Both the nurse and I were completely speechless. I was too exhausted right after the birth that my feelings of anger had disappeared. It was only after I had a good night's sleep and had regained some strength and consciousness that my anger at my husband began to gradually heat up. My in-laws, Jack and Laura, visited the hospital many times to see our son and were concerned about my health, but my husband never came to see me at all. According to Jack and Laura, Theo did come to see our son, though. Both Jack and Laura also asked me, "Did you guys have a fight? Theo won't say anything, you know," and sounded worried. I thought I should be honest about this, so I told both of them what had happened in the delivery room. Hearing that story, both Jack and Laura got furious and took my side. And that day, I was discharged from the hospital, so I took my son home with Jack and Laura. When we arrived home, Theo was already at home relaxing around in the living room.
Oh, you're finally home.
For some reason, my husband was grinning. "Hey, Theo, I heard what happened in the delivery room from Margaret."
What are you doing when Margaret's having a difficult time?
Hey, now, wait a minute.
Then you probably already heard from Margaret what I pointed about our son not looking like me, right?
Yes, we did hear that. But Margaret says that she never cheated on you at all, so what you're saying is impossible.
Mom, are you just going to accept what that woman says without questioning her?
How dare he says that woman? Well, do you have any proof? Do you have any proof or evidence that I am actually having an affair with another person and that this baby is not ours? My husband Theo looked as if he had won the fight when I asked him that question.
Yeah, of course I do. In fact, I did a DNA analysis already without telling you.
In saying that, my husband took out some documents from his bag. Apparently, the documents were the results of the DNA analysis.
Here, read this part here.
Then, my husband pointed to a certain part of the document. Well then, let's see. It says here that we strongly assume that you are the biological father.
Yeah, so that means he's not my baby, right?
When Theo said that, Jack, Laura, and I were just speechless. How did you even conclude to that?
Because, assume only means it's a guess, and it's not officially confirmed, right? So, if that's the case, it means there's a possibility that I'm not his father.
By this point, I was just so fed up of his stupidity that I wasn't angry at him like I was before. What's written here means that you are his father.
What?
If you aren't the father, it would clearly state that you are not related by blood and that you're not the biological father on here.
But the word assume is...
Of course they'd write it like that. To find out if you are the father 100%, they would have to analyze the DNA of the entire human race and prove that you have more similar genes to this child than the others.
So does that mean that he's actually my baby?
That's what I've been saying this whole time.
No way.
My husband looked as if he had done something wrong and said this awkwardly.
I'm sorry. I guess I was just too quick to judge. Ha ha ha.
Both Jack and Laura were glaring at Theo. I mean, did someone tell you something to think like that our baby was not yours? Well, I guess it was more convenient for you that I was having an affair, right?
Huh?
My husband looked nervous as I said that. Margaret, what do you mean by that? I'm sorry, there is actually something which I haven't told you and Jack yet. Actually, just 3 days ago, my sister took a certain photo of Theo and she sent it to me. I said that and showed the photo to Jack, Laura, and Theo. It was a photo of my husband walking down the street arm in arm with another woman.
What? Why?
Well, it looks like because you were having an affair with another woman, you thought I was having an affair too, just because our son's face doesn't look like yours, right? Well, you know what they say. The more that person has an affair, the more suspicious that person gets of their own partners. And you thought that if I was having an affair, you could divorce me and be with your mistress while you get alimony from me, didn't you? You know, a newborn baby wouldn't resemble the parents in the first place, because they were just born, of course. It's only obvious that as they grow up bit by bit, their faces start to resemble to their parents. My husband was in a complete shock, but he has no right to be like that because he knew what he was doing, so he must have known the consequences. I said to him once and for all, let's get a divorce. Oh, and I'll obviously get alimony and child support from you.
No way. Can't you rethink about the divorce?
When my husband said this, Jack began to slap him.
You're such an idiot. After how you've been treating Margaret like that, now you don't want a divorce, huh? Stop being selfish.
That's right. You did something that can't be undone for sure. You deserve this, Theo. Even Jack and Laura were both on my side, and my husband seemed to realize that there was no way he could win anymore. After that, our divorce was finalized without any problems. I filed for alimony and child support from my ex-husband, and also alimony from his mistress. It seems that Theo's mistress was his colleague from work, and both of them were demoted and transferred to different locations, and they both had their salary reduced. Theo is now living poorly in a place where he doesn't know anybody and paying me alimony and for child support. He deserves what he got. Oh, and Jack and Laura had cut ties with Theo. On the other hand, I am now a single mother, but I have no financial problems because I was allowed to take enough maternity leave at my company. Since returning back to work, I have been working hard and earning enough money for my son. I will continue to take care of my son, who is my treasure, and do my best to raise him properly. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
My husband doesn't work and do nothing but sleep and eat all day. I moved out while he was out, and as a result.
Hey, what the hell is up with you? You're always at home, relaxing around, doing nothing. And all you do is eat and sleep, every single day. I am not working here just so I can feed you and take care of you. If you're not even going to do any house chores, then start finding a job. Then my husband, Nick, began to get really upset once again.
Shut the hell up. If you insist that much, I'll leave you in this home for good. Once I'm gone, you'll know how I was important to you, and you better learn to be thankful of me.
With saying just that, my husband packed up his belongings and left. My name is Mary, and I am 32 years old, working in a company. I had been a workaholic all my life, and I loved doing my job and working really hard for the company. Seeing me like this, a friend of mine got worried that my work was my love, so she arranged a blind date for me to go to, and that's where I met Nick. At that time, Nick seemed to work at a nursing home and had a nice smile, good looking, and was very kind to me. From the blind date, we hit it off and began to go out. Nick would understand my busy working schedules and how busy I was at work. Even when I worked late and couldn't see him for a few days, he would never give me a look which would say that he hated that part about me. Instead, he would ask me, "Are you eating something nutritious for your health?" and worries about me. All the male colleagues in the company where I work at are all eager to get promoted, so no one worries about me like how Nick does. In fact, most of my male colleagues sees me as their rival and even thinks that if I faint or something, they will have one less rival to beat. This was one of the reasons why I was really moved by Nick's kindness, as he was really different to the guys I knew from work. Nick would cook for me at home and wait for me when I was busy, and he even made lunch for me on mornings when he slept over. Since Nick has been living on his own for a long time, he could do all the house chores really well. I was beginning to think that I might be able to build a happy family with such a kind and wonderful man like Nick. And then, Nick proposed to me. I immediately accepted his proposal, and we got married. Many of the people at work congratulated me, but I think most of the male colleagues were also surprised.
That workaholic Mary is getting married? I thought that she'd end up being single for the rest of her life.
Many of my colleagues would say such mean things about me. But at any rate, I found my happiness. We held a wedding ceremony, went on our honeymoon, and started our newly wedded life together. My newly wedded life with my husband was a lot of fun. My husband really took care of me and did the house chores mainly. Of course, I also did some house chores on weekends and days where I could, but I was still as busy on weekdays, so it was helpful that my husband took the initiative to do the house chores mainly. "Nick, everything you cook is really delicious."
Right? I've been working part-time in the kitchen at a restaurant all my life, you know. Look, I made some quick snacks, which goes really well with beer, so eat up.
Yay! Thank you. I love to drink, so I really love the food my husband made. He made a lot of easy, quick snacks that went well with alcohol, so I think I drank quite a bit when we were together. I have always been devoted to my work, but I am so lucky to have met such a wonderful, caring person. I thought that I would be able to spend happy days like this with my husband from now on. But it was about a year after we got married that things began to get a little bit strange. "Nick, I did it! I finally got a promotion."
Oh, wow. That's great. Well then, we're definitely celebrating today. Let's have some delicious steaks and drink some good wine.
That sounds amazing! Yay! I love steak. My husband was very happy about my promotion. From what I had heard around me and on the internet, I had heard that some husbands cannot be honestly happy when their wives get promoted first, perhaps out of pride. But my husband was not like that. He was really happy for me. That's what I thought, and I really thought that he was a nice person at the time. But...
I'm thinking of becoming a full-time house husband.
Huh?
Well, if you will get a promotion, you will become even more busier than now, Mary. So, then, I think it would be better for me to do all the house chores and support you back at home.
But I've been working overtime under the company's regulations all this time, so the times that I'll work for the company won't change even after the promotion that much. So, I'll be busy, but it'll be the same busy schedules that I've been having this whole time.
Oh, is that so? But even so, you'll have more responsibilities once you get promoted, and won't it be easier mentally if you don't have to do any house chores at all?
Oh, Well, you're right about that.
Right? So, from now on, I'll quit my job and be at home to support you, Mary.
Since my husband suggested so strongly, I agreed to his idea. Indeed, my husband was right, as my responsibilities at work would increase from now on, so there could be possibilities where I might forget or I'd be too tired to do any of the house chores. If that is the case, since my husband is going to stay at home, I may as well rely on him to do all the house chores. And nowadays, it is not at all unusual for husbands to become house husbands anyways. So, it was decided that I would work and he would stay at home taking care of all the house chores. And this plan was a great success. I was freed from the role of doing any house chores and was able to focus more on my work than before. My husband quit his job and was able to focus solely on house chores, allowing him to spend more time to cook, clean, and running errands for the house. Whoa! The room is really clean.
Right? I've cleaned up literally every little details of the rooms compared to before.
And the meal that you made is so good. This beef in this beef stew is so tender and delicious.
Well, now that I have more time, honey, I can definitely take the time to cook difficult menus, which would take some time. We'll be able to eat a lot more of this kind of meals from now on.
Yay! I feel like I'm at a little restaurant every day.
No, it won't be like that. I'll even cook some Italian or Chinese meals depending on the week.
That's amazing. I'm looking forward to it, honey. Since then, my husband served me all kinds of tasty home-cooked meals. Even when I came home tired from work, my husband's cooking, as well as beer, made me feel instantly relaxed. I was having the time of my life, living with Nick. And then one day, I came home from work to find that nothing had been prepared for me to eat. There was no sign of my husband in the living room, too. I thought, what's going on? And I went to Nick's room and found him sleeping on the bed. Oh, was he really tired? My husband was sleeping with his face down on top of the duvet, as if he had just dived into the bed. I don't know how long Nick had been asleep for, but sleeping like this, he could catch a cold. I gently tapped my husband to wake him up.
Oh, what time is it?
It's already 9, honey.
Oh, no, really? I'm really sorry. I forgot to cook.
It's okay. Honey, you were tired too, weren't you? You haven't eaten yet, right? Why don't we just order today? How about pizza?
Yeah, sure. I'm really sorry.
I didn't mind Nick being like that at all, because it's only normal to have days like that sometimes. I was rather grateful that he had been so good to me all this time. That day, we both had beer and enjoyed the pizza. But a few days later, the same thing had happened. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but a little while later, the same thing happened once again. And sometimes, the morning dishes were left untouched. And I felt that Nick wasn't doing much of the house chores bit by bit in general, compared to before. The laundry was piled up, the floors were dirty, and I wondered if Nick had even vacuumed around the rooms. When I came home, my husband was often asleep on the sofa or on the bed. He used to cook delicious meals for me, but the other day I saw a lot of empty boxes of prepared foods from the supermarket. Well, I am grateful that he still prepares them for me, but recently he has been cooking less and less and asks me, "Can we order something?" as if it was normal to do that now. Even though he suggests to order food, I think to myself that all the delivery fee is going to be paid all by myself. I thought that this was something I could not overlook anymore and talked to my husband about this. Hey, aren't you slacking off a little too much about the house chores? Then my husband started to get upset.
What the? I'm doing my best here. Being a house husband is not easy, you know. Don't you dare underestimate me just because I'm the house husband.
I'm not underestimating you. It's just that you used to do everything around the house, but lately I feel like you're not doing them at all.
I do get tired sometimes too, so give me a break.
No, I know that, but I'm only just saying that he's slacking off too much because it's the truth. But my husband wouldn't try to discuss about it with me at all. I finally gave up talking to him and just had to put up with it. After that, my husband still continued to not do the house chores. Or rather, I guess he started to think that he could ignore house chores without any hesitation because I didn't warn him about it so strictly after that. My husband literally became an unemployed scumbag who wouldn't do anything around the house, always sleeping around when I came home. He just really sleeps all the time, non-stop. What the hell was he even doing during the day? At this rate, I guess he's just being lazy and not doing anything during the daytime too. The morning dishes were left untouched, and eventually I would buy lunch or cook a simple meal when I got home from work. My husband would eat what I cooked or bought without even thanking me, and then lie down on the couch or bed after that and sleep away. His day literally consisted of eating and sleeping. This is nowhere near what a house husband would do. All these frustrations I had gradually built up day by day. Then one day, I had a little trouble at work and I wasn't feeling my best. And when I returned home, my husband was just relaxing around in the living room, laying on the sofa. When he noticed that I had come home, he asked,
"Where's the food?"
At that moment, I exploded with all the frustration I had been feeling from work and all this time. Hey, what the hell is up with you? You're always at home, relaxing around, doing nothing. And all you do is eat and sleep every single day. I'm not working here just so I can feed you and take care of you. If you're not even going to do any house chores, then start finding a job. Then my husband Nick began to get really upset once again.
Huh? Who the hell do you think you are, Mary? I'm the one who has been supporting the house and family all this time, and you don't even have any tiny ounce of gratefulness towards me.
I have been grateful towards you up until now. Lately, I have been doing all the house chores and work and trying to balance them, but all you do is just sit around and do nothing.
Shut the hell up! If you insist that much, I'll leave you in this home for good. Once I'm gone, you'll know how I was important to you, and you better learn to be thankful of me.
With saying just that, my husband packed up his belongings and left. Why has my husband changed so drastically like this? Will I ever be able to fill up this gap that I have between my husband and I? As I was worrying like this all night, the next morning I came down with a high fever. As expected, it was too difficult for me to go to work, so I took the day off and went to the hospital in the morning. I ate some yogurt and took the medicine which the doctor gave me. Then, the fever went down a bit and I felt better, so I laid down on the sofa and watched the TV while relaxing. Then suddenly, the doorbell rang. Who could it be? Was it my husband? Had he forgotten his keys? But when I saw through the peephole to check who it was just in case, I was surprised. It was a young woman whom I've never seen before. From the way she was dressed, she wasn't a person from the post office or a courier. Could it be? I quickly set the camera app on my phone to record a video and answered through the peephole, trying my best to keep my voice low.
Oh, hey, what's going on?
I tried to say it in a manly tone, and hearing this, the woman said, I came to see you. So I said,
I see, all right,
and opened the door. Come on in. I opened the door saying that as I held my phone and waited for the woman to come into the room. Then the woman came in saying, Oh, Nikki, how I missed you. And then I asked her this. Who the hell are you? Ah! Who the hell are you? I am Nick's wife. Excuse me? Then the person who answered the doorbell earlier wasn't Nick, but... I changed my voice and answered it, of course. Are you having an affair with Nick? The woman began to panic and said, No, I mean... Hey, turn off that camera. No, I won't turn it off. And if you won't reveal yourself, I'm going to have to call the investigators to investigate about you. After I said all this, the woman gave up and told me everything. She told me that she was a mother who lived around in the neighborhood, and that she and Nick had met at the supermarket, became friends, and then began having an affair. I'll never forgive him. My husband was having an affair while I was working really hard. He was playing around with another woman with my hard-earned money. I am sure that he was ignoring the house chores because he was busy having an affair during the day. I immediately decided to leave this house. Originally, I had rented the room under my name because my income was higher than Nick's even when we were both working. So, I could also terminate the lease whenever I wanted to. I sent all of my husband's belongings to his parents' house and terminated the lease for the room. In the meantime, I rented a room in a new apartment and moved out. Soon after that, my husband contacted me.
Hey, why are you sending all my stuff to my parents' house without any permission?
Because you did leave our home, didn't you?
Well, this is only temporary.
No, it's not. You've left for good. So, I want a divorce.
Huh? Divorce? Wait a minute. Just because of this, divorce is the wrong answer.
Well, no it isn't, and there's more to this, you know? Because I know that you were having an affair.
What?
Your mistress thought that you were at our house the other day, so she came over for a little visit. The housewife, who said that she met you at the supermarket.
Oh, no. Oh, I was seduced by her.
Don't give me any excuses. I'll make sure that you pay me alimony.
No way.
When I called him at that time, I heard a woman's voice over the phone. Could it be that woman he was having an affair with at the time? No, but there was no way that Nick would stay over at that person's house. I mean, she's a mom, and she must be living with her husband. Could it be another woman? I decided to investigate with the investigator just to make sure. A month later, I received the results of the investigation and was just dumbfounded by it. My husband was having affairs with 4 different women, and all of them were married. So I immediately sent content-certified mails to each of the mistresses' homes. As a result, my husband was sued by all of the other husbands for alimony. Then, my husband called me once again.
Mary, how dare you do that to me? Because of what you did, I have to pay a lot more now.
What the hell? You had it coming. You've been shaking your hips like a rabbit every single day, and by the time I get home, you're so tired that you're always asleep. If you want to live your life like that, then go ahead. But just don't be an asshole, and don't ever break the rules that we have in our society like how you did this time. Alimony is the price for breaking these rules. Just be quiet and pay it up, you asshole.
Ah.
My husband sounded frightened, as if he didn't expect me to yell so much to him. I hung up the phone, blocked all incoming calls from Nick, and left the rest to my lawyer. The divorce was finalized smoothly, and I filed a claim for alimony against my ex-husband and all the women with whom he was having affairs with. But since my ex-husband did not have the financial ability to pay all of the alimonies, his parents decided to pay them for him instead. Nick's parents were very angry with my ex-husband because of this incident, and now they are monitoring him every day, making him work from morning till night and using all of his income to pay back the amount they had lent him. Well, it's a natural process, so I have no sympathy for Nick whatsoever. Meanwhile, I continued to work as hard as ever and got promoted to a higher rank. Since I can live completely on my own now, I think I will take it easy on my love life without forcing myself to get married. Having an affair with 4 different women while being supported by his wife? How much of a scumbag is this man? To be honest, I really think Nick should have experienced much more for what he had done. But I am glad that Mary got her alimony. I hope Mary can find her true love and happiness with a decent man in the future. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
My husband was cheating on me with another woman and saw them at a restaurant, so I confronted them.
Oh, good evening. My husband Henry's facial expression freezes.
What?
Oh, what a coincidence. Who is this person?
Oh,
And I began to sit next to where my husband was sitting. I could feel how awkward my husband was, just by being in the same place as him. My name is Sarah, and I am 29 years old, and I work at a company. I have been married to my husband, Henry, for 2 years now. Henry and I both work, so we are both busy, even as a married couple. Even so, I thought that we were having a happy married life by sharing house chores together and occasionally going out to dinner or going on drive dates. But something happened that instantly changed all my thoughts about how we were having a happy married life. That day, I was supposed to go to a very fancy restaurant with a few of my university classmates whom I was still friends and keeping in touch with. It was a restaurant which I had wanted to go to for a long time, so I was pretty excited from the morning. And so, I focused a lot more on my work than usual, since I was determined to finish my work as quickly as possible to get to the restaurant on time. Then, during my lunch break, I received a text message from one of my friends, Laura, who was also attending today's dinner. Hey, isn't this your husband, Henry? When I looked at the photo that Laura sent me, to my surprise, it was of a woman whom I've never seen before and my husband walking down some street holding hands together. What? No way! Without thinking, I mumbled these words. Laura knew both my husband and I, and the reason why she knew my husband was because her company was my husband's client, and they would often have meetings together. Laura said that she had a meeting during the day at the company where my husband worked today and visited him for that. But she was apparently told by the company that he had a day off. I thought that this was weird, because from what I understood, my husband had gone to work in the morning and he was not on his day off. In other words, as of this morning, he had completely lied to me. Come to think of it, my husband was saying this to me in the morning. I'm going out to eat with a friend today too. So, that friend must be the woman in the photo Laura took. I couldn't believe that my husband was cheating with another woman behind my back. After finding out about this, all my excitement that I had from the morning was gone all at once, that I couldn't even be motivated enough to go to the fancy restaurant anymore. Then, after finishing work, I headed over to the restaurant in a depressed, unmotivated mood. As soon as I entered the restaurant, I was really surprised. I couldn't believe my eyes, but my husband was there. Plus, he was there with the woman from the photo. Seeing the two of them eating together and having fun talking with each other, something inside me snapped. I don't care about this guy anymore. But I didn't want to ruin the dinner with the girls, so I decided to stress out my husband while trying not to cause a huge scene. Oh, good evening. My husband, Henry's facial expression freezes.
What?
Oh, what a coincidence. Who is this person?
Oh,
I know him through work, you know. Is she your girlfriend?
Oh, yes.
What are you saying? You're mumbling the words too much. If you're going to introduce me to her, you should do it properly. Oh, so she is your girlfriend, huh? I see how it is. Well then, please enjoy the dinner. Then saying that, I sat down right next to my husband. I could feel how awkward my husband was just by being in the same place as him. Later on, Laura, who had sent me the photo, arrived and was surprised to see Henry at the restaurant. but I held my index finger in front of my mouth and asked her to remain quiet about the situation. My husband was clearly panicking as he kept on dropping his fork several times, and the woman with him was saying this to my husband. "You're really acting strange today, you know." Well, it must be quite a hell to have your own wife sit next to you while being caught about the fact that you were cheating on another woman. So, on purpose, I talked with my friends about my recent love life and family life while enjoying my husband's facial reactions next to me. Then, we finished the dinner early, so I went home first and waited for my husband to return. My husband returned home about 30 minutes after I arrived home. Apparently, he and that woman parted ways right after dinner and he came straight home. As soon as Henry saw my face, he said, "I'm so sorry." He began to apologize about his affair with that woman, Meg.
I was seduced by her. I'm so sorry. She kept on seducing me for a while, so Today too, she kept on asking me out for dinner after my work.
Even though Henry began to apologize about it, I wasn't going to forgive him at all. No way, that's wrong. You lied to me about going to work today, and you were out with Meg during the day, weren't you?
What?
I already have proof, you know. Saying that, I showed Henry the photo my friend had taken. So, you can't make any more stupid excuses, and you won't get away with this.
That's... you know...
I've had enough. Let's divorce. We'll discuss about the alimony later on.
Hey!
I then contacted Laura, who was at the dinner today, and for now, I just packed what I needed and left home and decided to stay at her house. As I was having a drink with Laura again and we were laughing and saying, "I never thought we'd run into each other at that restaurant," I felt the phone vibrate. As I looked at my phone, I saw that there were notifications of many incoming calls. At first, I thought it was my husband, which is why I tried to ignore it. But the call was actually not from him, but from my high school friend named Anastasia. Anastasia and Henry and I were all from the same university, and although Anastasia and Henry were from different departments, they were both in the same club activity, and that's how they knew each other. I instantly called back Anastasia. "Hello? What's wrong? Did something happen?" "Huh? What the heck are you saying?" Well, I saw that you called me a lot, so You! Just because Henry was having a dinner with another woman, what right do you have to get that mad at him?" "What?" "I heard everything from Henry, you know. You were too jealous that you thought that Henry was having an affair when he didn't, and you had a huge fight where you threw a lot of stuff around the house and left." "Huh? What the..." "Besides, it seems like you've been having that kind of attitude like that in the past too, huh?" "I have never in my life ever done anything like that." "Hold on a minute. You misunderstood about everything. Let's meet up. I'll tell you the real truth about everything." With that, I hung up the phone. I had no idea that my husband would try to make me look that bad by telling such terrible lies to our mutual friend. My anger at my husband heated up even more, and I vowed that I would never, ever forgive him. The next day, I met Anastasia at a cafe and told her exactly what had happened. But somehow, she had a hard time believing me when I told her that Henry had actually cheated on me. So, I decided to show her the photo which Laura took of my husband holding hands with his mistress Meg. "What? You must be joking." Once Anastasia saw the photo, she finally believed me that what I was telling her was all true. The story that Anastasia had been told by Henry was that he had just had dinner with a woman to discuss about work-related issues, and that I was being out of control and I had stormed out of the house. And he had also explained that I was the one who would always get angry and has anger management issues. I can't believe that he would lie to me just to defend himself. Saying that, Anastasia called Henry and put the phone on the table with the speaker on so I could hear it too. Then, a woman picked up the call. "What can I help you with?" "Henry's currently taking shower at the moment." "Who the hell are you?" Who the hell are you?" "I'm Henry's friend." "Ha! I'm Henry's girlfriend." "Oh, is that so? I see how it is then." With that, Anastasia hung up the phone. "Sarah, let's go." "What?" "Let's go to the hotel where Henry said that he would be staying at." Apparently, my husband decided to stay at a hotel just to make his lie more real to Anastasia, as he had told her that the house was a mess because of me. Well, it's more like he probably went to the hotel because he wants to make sure that we won't run into each other if in case I came back home suddenly. We then reached to the front door of the hotel room where my husband was. Then, Anastasia banged the door and shouted, "Come on out, you cheating asshole!" As you can imagine, it looked like what we were doing was what a mob would do, banging on doors like that. I told Anastasia, "If we make a scene, we'll get kicked out of the hotel." Then, Anastasia whispered to me, "He can't get away with what he did, you know." But there was no response from Henry, who was in the other side of the door. Anastasia was about to start yelling again, so I stopped her by saying, "Let's just calmly wait until they come." Then, after about 20 minutes, the people who I had called for came.
Hey, Henry, what the heck are you doing? Open the door. What? Is that father?
Yes, indeed. I called Henry's parents over. "You! What are you doing?"
Wait a minute. I'll open the door now.
Henry then opens the door as he said that. Then, as if the police were rushing into the scene, Henry's parents and Anastasia rushed into Henry's room. I was the last one to go into the room after everyone else had gone to the back of the room. "What the hell is the meaning of this?"
No, Anastasia. Sorry, well, this is... Henry, you're a horrible son for having an affair with another woman.
"I don't remember raising you like that at all."
Father, Mother, I'm sorry.
When I arrived, my husband was already being blamed like that by his parents, and Henry looked really devastated. And in one corner of the bed, Meg was sitting really awkwardly. Then, all of a sudden, Anastasia began to say something which was completely unbelievable. "Oh, Henry, you told me that I was your only woman. But who the hell is this woman?" Huh? What does she mean by that? Henry's parents also gave a look which said, "Huh?" and looks at Anastasia.
So I said, I'm sorry. I was being seduced, you know. Henry, what is the meaning of this?
"Do you mean to tell me that you're not just having an affair with a woman, but you're having an affair with another woman as well?"
No, well, yeah. You stupid idiot!
My father-in-law, Richard's fist hits Henry on his face.
Father, Mother, I'm really sorry. But about Anastasia, I haven't told Sarah.
You haven't told me what?
What? Sarah, why are you here?
When Anastasia called you over the phone, I was also there. I mean, what the hell? Does this mean that you also betrayed me, Anastasia, when I thought you were on my side this whole time? No, that's not what this means. It seems that Anastasia was unable to control her emotions and ended up taking her anger out on Henry, revealing the truth about their affair that they had behind my back. Oh, I see how it is. So, I was just being pushed around by you assholes.
I'm really sorry about my stupid son, Sarah.
I will make sure to have our son pay for everything that he did to you. I'm truly sorry. It's not your faults, Beth and Richard, so please don't apologize. But instead, Richard, can you please do that thing where you made sure Henry know what your fist was like?
Yes, of course. Ugh.
Thank you. I feel way better now. Well, I'll be requesting for alimonies from all three of you, you sick assholes. And of course, it will be done all through my lawyer.
Sarah.
Sarah, I'm so sorry. Don't ever call my name again. Disgusting. With saying that, I left Henry's hotel room. I then successfully got a divorce from my husband, and he had paid me the alimony. Anastasia and Meg also paid me the alimonies, which I had requested them. Since my ex-husband worked in the cosmetics industry, he had colleagues who were mostly females at his workplace. So, I thought it was a great idea to report this incident to my ex-husband's boss. Upon hearing what had happened, his boss got really furious, and my ex-husband's affairs had spread through the company in no time. With no one on his side, my ex-husband could no longer stay at work, and so he ended up quitting his job. He's now forced to live a poor life in a run-down apartment while working a low-paying job as a temp. Henry got what he deserves. Anyways, as for Anastasia, I shared about what had happened to her high school and university classmates. I told them that Anastasia had a hobby of sleeping around with husbands and warned them to be careful if they're with Anastasia. As a result, Anastasia lost all the trust from her high school and university classmates, and everyone had stopped contacting her, and she was no longer invited to any events like weddings or dinner parties and so on. Then, Anastasia contacted me saying, "I'm really sorry, so please forgive me, and I want you all to clear up the misunderstanding to my friends." Reading her message, I thought that she was apologizing, but until the very end, she was only thinking of herself. So I replied, "No one misunderstood, you know, and I was only telling the truth to them," and blocked her. Thus, Anastasia was completely gone from my life, and I am now able to live a very peaceful life. I then bought a new apartment with the alimonies I received from Henry, Anastasia, and Meg. Currently, I am living in a new, beautiful, and very spacious room, and I am leading a very elegant and comfortable life. I think I've had enough with my marriage life, so I'll just enjoy the life being on my own for a while. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.
I lost only my memory of my husband and my in-laws. I turned in the evidence of my in-laws' bullying to the police.
So, did Terry's memory come back? No, not yet. Well, we're super lucky that she forgot only about us. My husband and mother-in-law took advantage of the fact that I was sleeping to reveal their true nature. I hope we can get her to come back to our place so we can use her again. Why do I have to do all the housework? It's a real pain in the ass. She's the one who's supposed to be doing all the work. Why don't you get better by now, you useless bitch? My name is Terry, a 32-year-old office worker. This sucks. I don't know how I let it happen. Then I heard a familiar voice and I opened my eyes. Terry, you're awake. Thank God. I opened my eyes and there was my mother with tears in her eyes. I looked around and realized that I was in a hospital room. Mom, why am I here? Seems like you suddenly got dizzy outside and fell down the stairs. What? Is that so? You had a concussion and lost consciousness. You were rushed to the hospital by ambulance. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Don't apologize. I'm so glad you are awake. I'm gonna get a doctor now. Said that, my mother left the room. And then a man came into the room. as if to replace her. The man was looking at me awkwardly. Terry, are you okay?
Excuse me? Who are you? Do I know you from somewhere?
What?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
You're kidding, right? I'm Vince.
I had no idea who he was. This man calls me by name, as if he is familiar with me. But for some reason, I can't remember anything about this man. I've never seen his face before, and I think I've never heard his name before.
Vince? Then the man said something surprising. I'm your husband.
What?
I was confused.
I was supposed to be single. I was never married. But the man in front of me says he is my husband.
You don't really remember anything, do you? Well, that's... I don't know.
I don't even know if I have no memory under the circumstances. While I was in trouble, my mother came with a doctor.
Oh, Vince, you're back. Yes, I brought her some change of clothes.
My mother and the man are having a normal conversation. Could this man really be my husband? The man looked troubled and started to explain the situation to my mother.
Terry doesn't seem to remember me. Maybe she has memory loss.
Huh? My mother and the doctor's eyes widened at Vince's comment.
Let's arrange for an examination immediately.
The doctor said so, and I was admitted to the hospital for tests. For a few days until the test results came back, many people came to see me, one after another. People from work and my friends came to see me. I remembered them all. I tried to remember what I did for a living, and I did. How on earth could I have forgotten the man I called my husband? And there were other people I couldn't remember. His parents, especially my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law came to visit me several times, but I couldn't remember her, as I couldn't remember my husband. I remembered the others no problem. I only forgot my husband and mother-in-law. Then the doctor told me the results of the test. At first, they thought it was traumatic because I fell down the stairs. However, they said it wasn't traumatic because I didn't have any bleedings in my brain from hitting my head on the concrete in the street. Therefore, they said it was probably psychogenic, triggered by the head injury. The doctor's diagnosis made some kind of strange sense to me. Whenever I try to remember my husband and mother-in-law, I get pain in my head. It's as if there is something I don't want to remember. I wonder if my memories will ever come back. My husband and mother-in-law are surprised that I don't remember them, but they seem to be concerned about me.
Doctor, how long is Terry going to stay in the hospital? I hope you let her out soon. I heard she fell down the stairs. I'm glad she's all right.
But the doctor had explained to them, but they'd better wait a while.
And even if she could be discharged, it would be better for her to stay at her own parents' house until her memory comes back.
When the doctor said that, the in-laws' eyes widened.
Why? Terry is my wife.
That's right, and she was living with us.
Are you saying you were going to take my daughter-in-law away from us?
I was surprised at my mother-in-law's sudden loud voice. The doctor was also surprised.
Please, calm down. Also, this is a hospital, so please be quiet.
When the doctor said that, my parents-in-law kept their mouths shut. At this point, I had a sudden headache.
Terry, what's wrong?
The doctor noticed something wrong with me. I'm sorry, my head hurts. Let's get you checked out right away, shall we? After the doctor said this to me, he urged my in-laws to leave. The in-laws left the hospital room with grim faces. Their faces did not show that they were worried about me. Are you okay? After my in-laws left, the doctor asked me with a worried face. I felt a little better, actually, after they left.
I see. You probably didn't have a good relationship with your husband or his parents. Well, I guess that they were putting a lot of stress on you. Ring any bells?
I don't know, but I guess you're right. That's what I thought when I heard the doctor's words. I'm sure that what happened at my parents-in-law house was so bad for me that my brain drowned out the bad memories of when I was badly injured. When I think about it, their panic when I was told by the doctor that I should go back to my parents' house seemed suspicious to me. Perhaps they were in a hurry because they would no longer be able to use me for their convenience. I instantly became afraid of my in-laws. What in the world were they doing to me when we were living together? The only thing I could think of while living them was bullying. Did my in-laws treat me that badly? But when I try to remember what happened at my in-laws' house, I couldn't remember at all. When I try to remember, my head hurts like hell. When I told my parents about it, they were very worried. But honey, you told me that living together with them wasn't a problem.
Maybe you were holding back to avoid worrying us. Right, Terry?
I don't know, but if that's the case, I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. You're still at a loss of memory, and we don't know the truth yet.
Then, my father seemed to have an idea, and he suggested something. I wonder if it's safe to do that, or he'll find out.
Well, let's just hope he doesn't find out.
I was worried, but I wanted to know the truth anyway. So I decided to carry out his plan.
Terry, how do you feel?
The door of the hospital room opened, and my husband came in.
What? You're sleeping?
He mumbles to himself. I am awake, but I am pretending to be asleep for some reason. I wonder how my husband will react in front of me in my sleep. I am watching him carefully to see if he reveals his true nature again. He sits down on a chair next to the bed and sighs. I hear the lid of the can of coffee pop open. Then I hear the sound of coffee gurgling down my husband's throat. I took deep breath and pretended to be sound asleep. Then the door to the hospital room opened again. I thought my husband had left, but it seemed someone had come in. Vince, you got here first.
Oh, Terry asleep?
Yeah.
She's been asleep since I arrived.
Are her parents here?
I haven't seen them yet. I don't think they are coming today.
My husband was checking to see if anyone else was coming to the hospital room, as if he had something to hide. I thought it was kind of weird. And they started talking something unbelievable.
So,
did she get her memory back?
No, she hasn't.
So, she still doesn't remember what happened when she was injured?
That's right. I don't want her to remember that anyway.
Well, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that she is forgotten about us. My husband and mother-in-law took advantage of the fact that I was sleeping to reveal their true nature.
I hope I can get her to move back to her house so we can use her again.
Why do I have to do all the housework?
It's a real pain in the ass. She's the one who's supposed to be doing all the work. Yeah, right. Why don't you get better now, you useless bitch? When I heard their disparaging tone, suddenly a memory came floating back to me. Very, very bad memory. I remembered that I was treated horribly by mother-in-law on a daily basis. Hey, Terry, what's with this food? It has no flavor. Make it again right now. But your husband likes it light flavored. I like strong flavors. Make mine stronger. But if I make a new batch now, I'll be late for work. I don't care if you are late. It's more important my husband and I will have decent meal. Not only does my mother-in-law have me make breakfast for the four of us, she even made me cook lunch for my mother-in-law and father-in-law every day in the morning. Plus, I had to prepare a lunchbox for my husband, which made me extremely exhausted every morning. And when I came home from work, I had to prepare dinner. And then I had to do the laundry and cleaning. I always bathe last. And it's only at midnight that I can go to bed after all the chores are done. But in the morning, I have to wake up at around 5 a.m. every day. They were abusing me like this, so I was physically and mentally exhausted. I was in such a state that I could have collapsed at any moment. And I also remembered the time when I was injured, when I lost my memory. It was when I was in the car that my husband was driving. We had gone out that day to buy a birthday present for my mother-in-law. My husband had forced me to go to all kinds of stores. He finally decided on a gift and we were driving home happily. But at the time, I was so tired that I fell asleep in the passenger seat. Then my husband stopped the car suddenly and snapped at me. You've got to be kidding me. What are you doing sleeping? Oh, I'm sorry. Get out of the car and walk home, you lousy wife. The next thing I knew, he got out of the driver's seat and opened the passenger's door. He unbuckled my seatbelt and tried to force me to get out. I made a crouching motion with my hands on my head, but my husband grabbed my arm and pulled me down. I fell to the ground with great force. I probably had a concussion from the strong impact and fainted. This is how I remember everything. I had to leave the hospital as soon as possible and call the police. I acted as if I had just woken up, just as the in-laws finished their conversations. When they realized I was awake, they suddenly smiled and pretended to be kind to me. Terry, you are awake. How you feeling? Take it easy. You can count on us if you need anything. I was so scared when they said those kind words to me. I'm sorry. I guess I fell asleep. I've been doing the test all day, and I am exhausted. I'm sorry. Don't worry about it. I'll see you later. I apologized, and they left with smiles on their faces. I called my parents right away. I told them about what had happened and how they had treated me. Of course, I told them about the time I was injured. My parents were very surprised and furious. They immediately called the police and filed a damage report. And we made up our minds to ask for a divorce. But all this had to be done without my in-laws finding out. I was discharged from the hospital and went back to my parents' house for the time being. My father and I visited my in-laws
and ask them to let me take some of my belongings so that I can stay with my parents for a little while to rest. My in-laws asked me if my memory had returned, and I lied and said it still hadn't. My in-laws looked worried at first, and I told them that doctor told me that my memory might not come back at all. When I told them that, their eyes lit up.
Well, I'm sorry about that. But don't worry, honey. You come back to us when you're feeling better, okay?
Yes, we care about you very much, Terry. My husband and mother-in-law are saying such things. My dad clenched his fist, but managed to calm down and be patient. He went to my room first to get my stuff. I collected my clothes and some other things, trying not to let my in-laws know. After that, I went straight to the police station with my father. I explained the circumstances of my injury and filed a damage report. The police said they would start investigating immediately. Then we hired a lawyer and discussed the divorce. Fortunately, I kept diaries of the abuse I received daily all this time. It was an unbelievable number of abusive behaviors recorded. My lawyer said that if I had this much of evidence, I could file for alimony on my demands. And when I was all set, I decided to meet with my husband. I sent a message to my husband that says, part of my memories came back, and I wanted to talk to him. Sure enough, he brought his mother with him. So I brought my father and my lawyer.
So, Terry, isn't it true that your memory came back?
My husband and mother-in-law looked very upset. I told them calmly, showing no emotion. Yes, I remember. I remember how you got me injured and how your parents bullied me. They turned pale when I said that. But my in-laws, still thinking they can get away with this, continued.
Wait a minute. Do you have any proof that we did that?
Yeah, Vince is right. Don't you dare say such a stupid thing. I can sue you for libel, you know. My husband and mother-in-law are still threatening me. Then, with a sigh, my lawyer opened his mouth.
Terry kept dozens of diaries to record the abuse she received from you too. She also secretly recorded your conversations in the hospital at her father's suggestion. The conversation when Terry was injured is also in evidence.
When the lawyer said that, they were understandably upset.
Wait a minute. Recording?
I put the finishing touches on my husband's hesitation. I've already reported that you caused my injury. I filed a damage report. The security camera on the street caught you pulling me out of the car. One of these days, the police are going to bring you in for arrest for assault.
Oh no. This can't be.
My husband tried to run away. Then the lawyer said,
if you run away, you'll be charged with even more serious crimes.
He fell on his knees and his mother froze. Her face was also pale. I'm divorcing you, and I am going to charge you alimony for the mental anguish as well. I said this and left with my lawyer and my father. After a while, my divorce from my husband was finalized, and the alimony was paid. And my ex-husband was arrested for assault. I did not settle and prosecuted him, and my ex-husband was fined. My ex-husband had already paid me alimony, and his savings were gone. So his parents paid a fine for the assault. His workplace found out about his arrest, of course. My ex-husband was fired. Furthermore, the neighbors and relatives got to know about it, and the family became completely isolated. Because of his criminal record, my ex-husband could not get a job at all, and he shut himself away from the family. My ex-mother-in-law has to support a grown-up child with a small pension and is forced to live a poor life. I, on the other hand, have successfully returned to work. I am working hard now, and I've just been promoted to manager. Now that I am back at home, I can save most of my income. Recently, I've been investing the money I've saved to increase my assets. I don't want to be in a relationship for a while. Instead, I'm going to take trips with my parents and spend more time with my family.
My new wife is not here. Right after the divorce with my cheating husband was finalized, he called me immediately and suddenly started pouring his heart out like that. I replied, biting back a laugh. So, you finally noticed, huh? My name is Betty. I'm a 34-year-old part-time housewife. My family consists of my husband Nathan and our daughter Lori, who recently entered elementary school. We are just an ordinary family like anyone else. However, recently, something unusual has been happening. I've been married to Nathan for 9 years. I guess you could say it's that phase, but things are getting cold between us as a couple. While there are many couples who remain affectionate no matter how many years they've been married, unfortunately, we are different. There are days when we don't exchange a word at all, and even when we do, it's minimal. Despite not having an overtime-heavy job, my husband comes home late every night. In some cases, he might not come home at all. Even a simple good morning or good night is met with a mere "oh" if I'm lucky. If he is in a slightly bad mood, being ignored is a common occurrence. As my husband gradually changed, I felt lonely and sadness, but only in the beginning. Now I've gotten used to it. In that sense, my feelings towards my husband have completely cooled off, I suppose. Well, even if we continue as a pretend couple, it's okay since he covers our living expenses. He's a kind father to our daughter after all. Even that thought has become a thing of the past. There's no living expenses again. Nathan, that guy, hasn't deposited this month's living expenses again. Yes, recently. My husband stopped depositing the living expenses. What's going on? I confronted him. I forgot. A nonchalant response came back, and the next day, it was transferred to the household account. I wish he would just hand it over in person. While thinking this, I sent a message to my husband on my phone, but it remains unread. He won't deposit it unless I ask, meaning the money won't come in unless it's marked as read. Until then, I have to make ends meet on my part-time income. My income is not that much. Hurry up and realize it. Deposit the money. Until it's deposited, my stomach aches every day, despite reducing our living expenses to begin with. How negligent can he be to forget even depositing that money? Anger intensifies along with the stomach pain. He has been cutting our living expenses, citing tough economic times, even though our daughter has just entered elementary school, requiring more money. He said that the situation in the world has eased up a lot, and it's costing a lot of money to socialize. Is socializing more important than our daughter? Isn't that too much? Even if we continue as a pretend couple, I want him to value our daughter. My wish, however, was in vain. As the message I sent remained unread, Several days later, finally, my husband came home. Setting a record for the longest time away, he returned after a week. The living expenses hasn't been deposited. Why won't you read my messages?
Oh, I forgot.
Make sure to deposit it by tomorrow. If I remember? Remember! Don't forget! I hold back from saying anything that might trigger a fierce argument because it's predictable. Just then, our daughter enters the living room from her room. Upon seeing her father, Laurie's face lights up. Welcome home, Dad! She rushes to embrace him, but shockingly, he avoids it and dismisses her with a firm motion of his hand. Hey, you!
Laurie, Dad is tired. Maybe later.
Before I could voice my protest, he said that and locked himself in his room. He never came out of his room. This is the same as not being at home. I wanted to talk to Dad about very things. What mother wouldn't stand up to see her daughter depressed like that? I stood in front of the room where my husband was and raised my hand to knock. But,
Yeah, next time. I'd like to take a trip to Florida or something.
His voice from behind the door halted my hand in its tracks. A trip? My husband? What does he mean by next time? When did he go on a trip? Despite me asking, he continued talking without realizing I'm listening.
I get lonely too. I don't want to be with that annoying wife even for a second. But sometimes I have to come back. If I don't return occasionally, it's not good. It's okay. The only one I love is you, Isabel.
Love? Who? Isabel? Does that mean my husband is having an affair? Is that what he's saying? A sensation of the ground crumbling beneath me overwhelms me.
I came back because I thought I should, but I will be going back there from tomorrow.
Daughter?
Oh, I don't care about her. She's just a child between me and that wife. I want to have a child with you, Isabel, soon.
I finally truly collapsed right there on the spot. What on earth is happening? Isn't my husband completely in the wrong? If it was just a fling, it would have been somewhat acceptable. But judging from how he speaks, it seems serious. And to top it off, he doesn't care about our daughter? He wants a child with his mistress? The cruelty of it all brings tears to my eyes. Mom, what's wrong? Returning to the living room, my daughter, who was watching TV, rushes over in concern. Is your stomach hurting? Are you okay? My kind daughter, who worries about me. Isn't it too much to not want such a good child? The moment I thought that, my tears stopped instantly. I need to become strong for my daughter. At this point, let's just treat my husband as a wallet and live on. With this determination, I decided to talk to my husband in the late night hours, when our daughter is asleep. However,
we need to talk.
It was my husband who started saying that, just as I nodded, thinking this might be a good opportunity.
I'm divorcing you.
Huh? A sudden declaration of divorce, and an odd sound escapes my mouth involuntarily. What? Divorce? What about Laurie?
I don't need a daughter who is as useless as you. You raise her. I won't pay child support.
What are you saying? You won't pay child support even if we divorce? I'm sure child support would be a must in any divorce.
I'm not interested in this house anymore. I won't waste money on useless people.
Wasting money? I can't let that slide. Against my instinct, I retort, and my husband just smirks.
You know, being with you guys isn't fun anymore. I can't stand being a family with you. It's annoying.
What? It felt like the world in front of me turned pitch black. I'm not going to blame him for losing affection for me, because I can't speak for anyone else. But it's different for our daughter. Isn't your own flesh and blood precious? Is money for our daughter a waste? What a terrible person.
A terrible one is you. Being able to marry to a great guy like me for 9 years is something you should be grateful for.
What? I feel a vein throbbing in my temple. No, it's actually throbbing. Anger overwhelms me inside.
Hurry up and prepare the divorce agreement.
Saying that, my husband locked himself in his room again. Prepare it yourself? If someone wants a divorce, they should do it themselves. No, it's fine for now. The next morning, when I woke up, my husband was already gone. The room felt like an empty shell. I noticed some of my husband's personal belongings are missing. Apparently he left. Several days later, he's not putting in the living expenses? Days have passed since my husband left, but the living expenses haven't been deposited yet. My hands trembled. Even though I send messages, he doesn't read them. No answer when I call. If it's come to this, I have to resort to my last option. I called my husband's company. As expected, he was at the company.
What's up? Don't bother me at work with phone calls.
If you don't put in the living expenses, I will keep calling the company. Apparently, this had an effect, and the money was deposited soon after. But right after that,
I'm divorcing you, so this is the last time. I won't give you any more money.
And with that phone call, he disappeared. Without any explanation, my husband went silent. Even when I called the company, they wouldn't connect me, and I was at a loss. What should I do? Regrettably, I couldn't come up with a good solution. Without love, divorce is inevitable, but I need to secure the living expenses for parenting. Do I have no choice but to proceed with the divorce settlement? However, I know a bit about my husband. Even if we create a legal document and decide on child support, he won't pay. That's the kind of person he is. Even if we try to garnish his wages, he might disappear and become untraceable. That man might do something like that. What should I do? I murmured once again, and in that instance, my daughter's smile flashed in my mind. A tear rolled down my cheek. I have to become stronger. There's no time to cry. For my daughter, who doesn't have time to cry, I must be strong. As I roughly wiped away the tears, a call came in. It wasn't from my husband. A few days later, my husband came to the house. Well, came is a strange way to put it, but house is under my husband's name. He came because I called him.
So?
In front of me, my husband sat back in a chair. There was no trace of the gentle smile he had when we got married. Internally sighing, I handed him a piece of paper. It was the divorce agreement.
Have you made up your mind?
Yes, I agreed to the divorce. I can't be with someone who doesn't cherish our daughter anymore. It's over. I've had enough. As I bit my lip tightly, my husband reached out with a smile. He took the divorce agreement and held it up as if presenting it to the heavens.
All right, my future is bright with this. Thanks.
What are you going to do now?
Well, who knows? I haven't figured it out yet. But I might find a new woman who will create a happy family, different from you guys.
I felt irritated at his sarcastic remarks. He probably already has a woman in mind for remarriage. Does he really want to avoid paying alimony that badly? And child support? To confirm, I asked my husband, who responded with a smirk.
Yeah, you can hire a lawyer or something to formally dodge it, right? Well, I will still try and dodge it.
I can garnish your wages.
Then I will change jobs until you can't. Maybe I will even move far away. There are countless ways to avoid payments.
As expected, I clenched my fist tightly. This man is just as terrible as I expected. No, even worse. I stood up, pointed at the entrance and said, Understood. I don't need anything more from a piece of trash like you. Please take your leave.
Oh, okay. Geez, you're so cold. That's why I got sick of you.
Please go. You are a stranger now. Technically, we are still married, but my feelings towards him are like those towards a stranger. I don't want anything to do with this guy ever again. With that determination, I glared at the door.
Yeah. Whoa, scary. It was right to divorce you.
As he said that, I saw my husband living in the corner of my eye. After the door closed, various emotions overwhelmed me, and I cried. Perhaps because I cried loudly. My daughter, who had woken up, heard it, was surprised, and started crying along with me. My daughter and I cried together in the middle of the night. Thus, a new chapter began for us, a mother and daughter. Might as well start fresh and move to a new house. Ideally, we should divide the shared property between a married couple. But there isn't much. I should investigate how much my husband is hiding, but I don't have the energy for it anymore. Fortunately, I still have the savings from my single life and the money my parents gave me when I got married. So our living expenses should be fine for now. Moreover, when I consulted with my boss at work earlier, they considered offering me a regular position. In that case, I need to leave that unpleasant house with memories of my husband. As I was browsing for properties on the computer, wondering where to go on this day off with no work, my phone rang, and surprisingly, it was from my ex-husband. I answered the phone, wondering what the hell is going on, and the air is filled with some kind of crying and sputtering.
Oh, Betty, listen to me.
I don't want to listen, but what is it?
I went to her place, but she's not there.
What do you mean?
I told you, the woman who is going to be my new wife, she's not there.
Huh? Weren't you talking about finding a new woman?
God, no, I mean, I found someone right away. My approach was brilliantly successful, and things progressed smoothly.
More like a full-on sprint than smooth progress, right? I went to her room to marry her, and the room that was supposed to be there, the room she lived in, was not there. Did the apartment get demolished?
No, the building is still there, and the room is there too. I asked the building manager, and they said she moved out. What should I do?
I don't know. It's not my concern. We are strangers now. I said that, and hung up the phone with a snap. Then he called back again right away.
Shut up already. Don't be so evil. We are a couple.
Our marital relationship was terminated when you submitted the agreement.
Oh, right. Well, never mind about that. Anyway, I don't have a girlfriend, and my condo has been cancelled, so I can't get it.
I see.
So, I have a favor to ask.
He sniffed abruptly, from a casual tone to a serious one, though it doesn't seem to matter much.
Can you let me stay tonight? No, just until I can get in touch with my girlfriend and find a new place.
Impossible. I told him that and hung up, and he called me back in a second. You're so annoying.
Don't hang up.
I'm hanging up. If I hang up, he will just call again. Feeling annoyed, I decided to meet somewhere and talk. After ending the call with my husband and setting a meeting place, I made another call to someone else. An hour later, I ordered coffee at a certain cafe, and my ex-husband showed up.
Hey, did you wait? You still have my room. I will live there for a while.
It took him just a second to say that after taking a seat. I think you should look next to me before making such a statement. I gave him a disdainful look, and finally, he shifted his gaze to my side. And there, his gaze stopped.
Isabel, why are you here?
Finally noticed. My ex-husband froze as I burst into laughter. Yes, I hadn't come along to the cafe. The person I called after the conversation with my ex-husband was Isabel, his affair partner. Hello, I'm Isabel, Nathan's affair partner. Still in her early 20s, she radiated a dazzling youthfulness, and she waved at my ex-husband with a smiling face.
Why?
In front of my bewildered ex-husband, Isabel smiled sweetly. We'll be in contact secretly without your knowledge.
What? What does that mean?
My ex-husband's scream echoed through the cafe. Actually, Isabel contacted me. She expressed a desire to talk and apologized to me, your wife. So, after my ex-husband brought up the idea of divorce, and I decided to become stronger for the sake of our daughter. But before handing him the divorce agreement, Isabel contacted me. She took the liberty of looking at my ex-husband's cell phone to get my contact information. I was perplexed, but I wanted to talk to her too, so I agreed. I had the calculation that if things went well, I might obtain evidence of the affair. It seems my husband is determined to deny everything. But even with a wisp of makeup, she was pretty and young and very serious, despite her soft appearance. Well, maybe she's not serious when she's messing around with other people's husbands. I will leave that aside at this point. I'm sorry. As soon as we met, she bowed her head and apologized to me. I'm aware that getting involved with someone else's husband is a despicable act. No matter how much I'm scolded and criticized, it doesn't matter. I just couldn't stop my feelings. She continued to bow her head earnestly. But his wife has done terrible things to him. I couldn't just stand by after seeing Nathan tearfully talking about how even his daughter is cold to him. I'm truly sorry. Upon hearing this, a question mark popped into my head. Cold? Me and my daughter? What the hell are you talking about? Huh? Isabel looks up at me in surprise. Then we began to reconcile our stories. And then it became clear. Nathan is an outrageous liar. I heard that his wife is constantly cheating and doesn't do any housework. No, I have no recollection of that at all. Daughter is aggressive, violent, and abusive at home. She's into flashy makeup, smoking, and drinking. My daughter is in first grade, though. Then I showed her the picture of my daughter on my phone, the 2 shots of her with me, etc. Eh? In a barely audible voice, Isabel expressed her surprise. He is still as thoughtless as ever, even though he will be exposed in the future. Unforgivable. At that moment, our voices harmonized. When I had finished telling my husband everything, I offered my husband an envelope. These are the proofs of your affair that Isabel provided, along with documents for child support and alimony. I've consulted with a lawyer and prepared them thoroughly. Eh? If he resists, I will involve a lawyer in our discussions.
A lawyer?
Isabel knows a good lawyer who kindly agreed to help us. I've also contacted your parents, so there's no escaping. If you don't pay, we will contact you through the lawyer.
Wait!
Dodging responsibility and running away won't be tolerated. Saying that, I stood up. If proper payments aren't made, I will contact you through the lawyer. I wasn't the only one who stood up. Isabel did too. Our marriage never happened. I can't marry someone who deceives with even the age of his child. So that's how it is. Leaving my former husband in a state of shock and bewilderment, Isabel and I left the cafe. As we walked from the cafe to the station, we started to part ways. I'm truly sorry. Isabel bowed her head once again. I will transfer the money for my part shortly. Understood. Though we cooperated in exposing the lying man, we never became friends. It's natural. Regardless of the reasons, she had destroyed our family. I discounted her settlement payment significantly because it is true that she helped me in many ways. Still, it's a clean slate. I'm truly sorry. Saying that, Isabel bowed her head once again and left. I'm sure we won't meet again. Afterward, my ex-husband, abandoned by Isabel, unbelievably came crying to me. But of course, I turned him away. I contacted his parents, and they took him back. But even so, my ex-husband was out of control, and a neighbor who heard the commotion called the police, who took him in. His position at work worsened due to the issues, leading to stress-induced mistakes and eventually dismissal. Without finding a new job, his parents abandoned him when he refused to leave his room, and he was even kicked out of his family home. The subsequent whereabouts of both Isabel and my ex-husband remain unknown, as I heard vague stories, but never learned the truth. I couldn't help but think that when you do something wrong, divine retribution may follow. My daughter and I found a new home within the same school community, coinciding with my promotion to a regular employee at the company. It was fortunate since someone was retiring at the perfect time. I guess when a door closes, a window opens. Work is hard, but steady and rewarding. My daughter is helping me more and more with the house. I'm very happy now to see my smiling daughter growing up every day.